aviator. She was known by that middle name. She made that name up apparently herself. Her friend was called Dolores. Her friend died, so she took on the last half of her name. And there is lots of argument about whether she actually called herself Loris or Laurie. But anyway, I think I'll just call her Laurie for now, because that's what people seem to know her by. But we're going to start off with Nellie McCredie. As you can see, this terrible photo. I did look around trying to find a better photo of her, but I guess she was camera shy, and that's the only one I could find, and that was from the Sydney Morning Herald in 1936, sitting in her pottery studio. But yeah, a terrible photo. So anyway, she was born actually in Sydney in 1901. Her dad Robert and her mum also Nellie. She was the niece of a couple of well-known architects who started off in Brisbane, but then went to Sydney. They had an office in Sydney. She went to University of Sydney and got an architecture degree, and looks like one of the first women in Australia, obviously, to get that degree. There was only 2 other women in her year that got that degree. And then she went to work for a company who were the contractors for the Sydney Harbour Bridge. So she worked then. Then she decided to move to Cairns on her own, I believe, in 1923, and she worked as an architect there, and then decided to go to Brisbane in 1924, and she worked for the Workers' Dwelling Branch within the State Advances Corporation for a few years in the mid-20s. But she also, I'm going to look at this in a minute, she designed as a private commission a house in Wilston. So this is a really fun thing that we can actually drive past this house in Clifton Street, Wilston, and see the evidence of her work, because I think it's a really cute little place. She also studied pottery while she was here with some Mr. Harvey, I think it was. So she learned a bit of pottery up here as well. Then she decided to go back to Sydney, where she started a pottery workshop with her brother in Sydney. She had she designed her own house for this workshop, Spanish mission style building. And you can actually see her pottery. It's in 5 public collections in Australia, including the National Gallery, Art Gallery in New South Wales, and the Powerhouse Museum. Now, this is interesting. There was another architect in Brisbane around the same time, a female architect. Her name was Lena Mottram. She actually opened her own office in Brisbane. Now this is a block of flats in Kangaroo Point. So Pete and I often go on that new Kangaroo Point Bridge, which you probably all know about. And you can see this building. So we've always wondered about this building. And what used to be 4 flats is now 2, and there's a massive high-rise of flats on the other side of that as well. And there's this grass slope which is still there. So you can actually see, and there's always people sitting there with their dogs or whatever. So yeah, I was really amazed to find out, because we were always saying, what's this building? Why didn't they knock it down? But thank goodness they didn't. It's on the Queensland Heritage Register. Sorry? I don't know.
It's some sort of flat sheet. We would believe it's probably asbestos fibre, yes.
Right. But yeah, it's kind of a shame there's a massive high-rise. But anyway, they didn't knock this down. That's the important part. Alina, actually, there's another house that the Alina has on the Heritage Register, and that's a house in Corinda. So that's good. We've still got some examples in Queensland for these. But anyway, now going back to Nellie. So she worked for the government, the council, whatever you call it. Now that State Advances Corporation, that became the Housing Commission. So they were around for about 25 years, and that was to let workers, people who were renting, and soldiers or whatever, to get government loans, cheap loans, and build their own houses. So that's what she was doing there. Now this is in 1928. There's a list of 34 different designs in 1928. This is number 1, seemingly the cheapest at £470. The average wage in 1928 was around £210 a year. So 2.5 times your annual wage, you could get that. On the other hand, here now in 2024, the average Queensland wage is $100,000, and the average house price is just over $1 million. So So we're looking at 10 times. So I think they had it better off than we did.
Sure. Did that include the land, or was that just the house?
No, they had to,
It was just-
I think they had to get the land separately.
Mm.
Yeah, true. They had to go, yeah, most people were getting loans. Or if they had their own house on their own land, they could use that receipt that they could get. But that was, yeah, I think that was just the design. But, yeah, so we're paying a lot. We're paying a lot, okay. Alright, now for all the talk that Queensland is backward, you can tell people, Queensland, we're fantastic. We accepted female architects before any other state in Australia. The Institute of Architecture, first one to have a female architect on their books, and yeah, so we're advanced. And we had two females in the 20s doing this architecture, even though they was basically stuck with domestic architecture, because they weren't taken seriously, sadly. But at least they were there and they were working. Her brother said one of the reasons she came back to Sydney was because it was just too hard as a female architect to do her own work. So when she went back to Sydney, she got more into pottery. So she's doing more of the pottery. What else was that? Okay. So just a sort of sideline, which I'll talk about. The house that she built, Yolanda, the owners in 1998 wanted to demolish it. So they put in an application to demolish it, and the Heritage Unit were looking into that, and they got some male architect to say, who cares, you know, it's not important, maybe some woman did it. But thankfully the Heritage Unit said, no, rack off mate, we're going to keep it. So that was, yeah, that was really good. So we go on to, so there it is, back when it was first done, and here it is now. Looking very cute. It really is a very cute little place, I think. But the only reason that I know about it, and Pete does really, is because Pete actually did the renovation in 1999. So he actually got to see it before it was renovated, and it had actually become a duplex in 1966. As Pete said, all they did was put a wall down the middle of the place. That was their duplex. So they had that. So this is the only thing we've got to say really, that this is the only built evidence of her work.
Aren't there's still a lot of those
Sorry?
workers' dwellings around, aren't there?
This is a private commission, this one.
Oh.
Yeah. So he would have paid,
Just
Mr.
to
Jack,
get
I think
the
his
name
name.
up,
So yeah, it is something very, so you can, yeah, drive by and check it out. Don't be a stalker. But it's very lovely. And it's got, as you can see, it's got that slate, rather than
Terracotta.
tile roof, yeah, rather than all the other Queenslander types around it have the tin roof. So that was different as well. Okay. I think moving on. Yep. There it is again. Yeah, very lucky that it's there, really. Okay, so as I said, she sort of shifted into the ceramics. But before I talk about that, interestingly, I found this article that talked about how in 2013, because it was just this one house that was proof, because when they worked in the SAC, architects were not allowed to put their name on the design. So nobody really knew for sure who designed what. Except in 2013, someone, I couldn't find out in the article who, found an archive of another 12 houses that were designed by her. And in a piece of furniture. It doesn't tell us which piece of furniture, where this furniture was, who found it, why. Anyway, it's a mystery, but they found this in 2013, and they found 12 more designs, so they know there's at least 13 houses she designed along the pretty much Queensland to Sydney. So at least we have proof now that she did do all that sort of thing. So, yeah, and then she basically, as I said, she was designing modest, affordable houses funded through low-interest government loans. And the workers' dwelling law that she worked for here in Queensland, they built 23,500 houses between 1910 and 1940. So that's pretty amazing. So she had a big part in that, I'd say. And then, so here are the drawings. I found the original drawings for Yolanda, the house in Wilston. See that there? So, and that house cost Mr. Jack £799. So he paid a fair bit more than the workers' cottage. Alright, and I've already mentioned how it was a duplex in 1966. When Pete saw it, it was still a duplex. And the owner who bought it in 1998 or whatever, he actually, they were trying to make it into a duplex, weren't they, Pete? As a proper.
They were gonna knock
Demolish
it down
it.
and make it into another duplex,
Yeah.
a new version.
Fortunately, that actually won't happen. Yeah, we've got the next one. The laundry chute. Nellie designed the first laundry chute in Queensland. This is not actually, this is a replica. Another one in a house in Ashgrove. So yeah, clever Nellie was into all the domestic architecture, making life easy for the ladies of the house. Pete did actually see the original chute in Uganda in 1999, which I read was no longer there, that new owners got rid of that, so this is one in Ashgrove, as I've said.
Where's the shoe?
Yeah, the box. There was a chute from the,
Oh, the thing hanging, the black thing.
that box here.
Oh, that box.
Hard to see, I know it's hard to see, but there's a chute that went down, so the housewife
Hopefully
is,
it's a little basket or something.
No, it had a little door on it.
yeah, up in the bathroom, I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
It
and
was
there
in was in the vanity.
In the vanity? Oh, okay. You mean like the floor?
There was a hole in the floor and under the vanity.
So anyway, that was it. Revolutionary. Alright, and she also, as I said, she was interested in improving life for the housewife, I guess you'd call it. So in this house, there was a breakfast nook, floor-to-ceiling cupboards, and a woodroom in the bedroom, which is revolutionary, apparently.
And we had to keep them.
What?
They had to be kept as part of the
Oh,
renovation.
yeah, okay. Alright, so just quickly finish up with her. We have just, now this is just, she actually designed a house, this is not it, but this is like a similar sort of house, Spanish Mission house that she designed for herself in Sydney. As I said, she became a potter, sort of left a bit of architecture, became less important, and she started this up with her brother, a pottery studio, and she was working from here, and they started doing commercial wear for gift shops and restaurants. So she also won a couple of pottery prizes because she did some of her own one-offs. But yeah, it looks like mostly they were doing commercial sort of things. Next please. Okay. This is the start of the article from the Sydney Morning Herald. That terrible photo. It's a bit maddening. You see how it says that Sydney girl's a fascinating hobby. She was 35 at the time, and she actually had a career and a business, and a commercial business of making pottery. So yeah, her fascinating hobby. And of course she'd been to uni and was a qualified architect, but she's still a fascinating little girl, basically. So I kind of saw red when
She probably wasn't married,
she what?
She probably wasn't married.
That's right, she wasn't. Yeah,
Oh,
she wasn't. So that was a bit infuriating. So then we can just have a quick look at her pottery. I quite like that. There's some other pottery, I've seen other pottery of hers, it's all sort of brown and grey, and I'm thinking maybe Robert, the brother, did some of the grey stuff. I don't know, the brown stuff. Moving on, there's a bit more of it. I'm thinking that that is probably Robert's more, her brother's, and probably for commercial purposes. So it's pottery. I did see one interesting thing where a photo of some pottery supposedly of hers from 1901. Well, she was a baby in 1901. Maybe someone got ripped off there. Okay, so basically that's a quick summary of Nellie. So we're, as I said, we're very lucky in Queensland to have that instance of her house. And an interesting thing, which maybe I will look into a bit more, is trying to find out more about that archive of 12 other designs. Because we don't know, are they all knocked down? Were they even interesting? Anyway, so we're very lucky to have all that. Okay, moving on to Maude Lores. Okay, so she was born in South Africa. She's South African. She died in 1994 on the Gold Coast. She moved down to Miami. where you can walk on the Lores Bonney lookout, which I think Pete and I have been on, and which overlooks the ocean obviously, and the river walk here in Hamilton, which we have walked on quite a few times, including last week. But check it out again. So, and it's quite a pleasant walk, that one.
And Bonnie Avenue in Clayfield, which we have done.
Sorry.
That's right, Bonnie Avenue in Clayfield.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's right.
And I've just realised I put in your river walk so you could read the sign.
Upside down.
But it's sideways. Sorry about that.
Thanks, Pete. Oh, thanks, Steve. Did I can't remember if I took that or someone else.
You took that.
We
Did
can
I
make
take
it out.
We can guess. Okay. So anyway, she's a pretty amazing woman. First woman to fly solo from Australia to Britain. Even though she crashed on a beach in India somewhere and had to be ferried, she and her plane, had to go on a ferry. So technically, she didn't do the whole, there was like, I don't know, 100 kilometres or something that she didn't. But anyway, we won't worry about that.
I don't think any of them did. I don't know, always do.
Crashing.
Crashing and having to move.
Yeah, the rest, I don't know. But anyway, this is kind of an interesting story. She met her husband in Victoria. He had a leather goods store up here, Mr. Bonney, Harry Bonney. So they got married. She got married. She was young. He was older than her. They moved up to Brisbane, and apparently not the happiest of marriages. They tried to have children, couldn't have them. I don't know. He went off with other women. A lovely fellow. So she decided to take some flying lessons, and this is an example of the plane. So her husband, I can only assume that he felt a bit guilty because he's perhaps going off with these other women already. So her father had said to Harry, her husband, never let her drive car because she's terrible, you know, she can't drive. So what did she do? She became a pilot instead. And Harry, of course, goes, yay, okay, I know you've been keeping it secret, all your lessons, but now I know you're a pilot, I'll buy you a plane. This is what husbands did in those days. They went out and bought you a plane. So that was her first plane. She did, even in 1931, she had a record, broke a record, made the longest day flight from Brisbane to Wangaratta in Victoria. So she had Christmas lunch with her hubby, and then decided to fly to Victoria for Boxing Day, her dad. So that broke a record. The next year she decided she'd just go around Australia on her own in the plane that he bought her. It's thought that she must have had some money of her own to afford the flying lessons because it was secret apparently. It was secret lessons. So she must have had a bit of money on her own. Alright, so apparently her husband's first cousin once removed or something was Bert Hinkler. You probably all know about Bert Hinkler, who made the first solo flight from England to Australia, and he apparently took her for some flying lessons, and then she just knew that's what she wanted to do. She really loved flying, so she started doing the lessons. The lessons were very expensive, a week's wages for 1 hour. So I think she had some money of her own that she could pay for before he started doing that. So yeah, and then because he had a leather goods factory, he made her a flying suit, made her some other boots and various things that she could actually take on her flights. So then, of course, she decided the next year to fly across the universe, across to England. So she did that. These are her flight. Apparently, some of these, I'm not sure which ones, some of them have still not been broken by anyone else. So, yeah.
Male or female?
So pretty amazing. She ended up with 3 planes. She had these Clems, a couple of the Clems, I think. So she had ended up with those 3 planes. Next one. All right, Bonnie Carp, named after her, of course. That was it's in the Powerhouse Museum in Sydney. We can still see it. It was the Qantas Cup. Qantas gave it to the Aviation Club, Aero Club, and they gave it to her in recognition of her flight to England. So, in an article, that's her. Now this is pretty amazing. She was her own mechanic. For a woman to be doing that was just amazing. Apparently, the people that she worked with in the hangar Archfield, I think it was, they played pranks on her and tricks, but she did her own stuff. So she was pretty amazing. Now her husband apparently said that he didn't want her to undertake the dash, that is to England from Australia. But when a woman has made up her mind, what can you do? Go through it. And she'd only had a license for 2 years at that point. And decided, that she'd fly all the way across. But she'd been doing other things like between states and cities and all that sort of thing, getting experience. And he was a bit concerned about her doing that, but then she flew him from Brisbane to Melbourne in the Gypsy Moth for the Melbourne Cup. So that somehow impressed him. He thought, oh yeah, okay, well then they get paid, she can go across the world and do the rest of it. So yeah, she got all these, as I said, he gave her boots and the suit and a map holder and all these other sort of things to help her. She also took a camera, a gun, and a first aid kit. And, alright, flying gear held at the museum, Powerhouse Museum, as you can see. Took a little hatchet as well, look at it. And the most important thing she said was a hot water bottle. You know why? So she could do her business while she was flying. I don't quite know how that would work. A hot water, it's not for you. Anyway, that's what she took, a hot water bottle, not. That's for that. Okay, speeding along here. So she started a few years later to go to South Africa in her, I think it's her second, maybe her third plane, I'm confused. But that plane was destroyed by fire in 1939 at Archfield. Now, things I read said it was just her plane and the other fellow's plane in the hangar with her, but then I read another article that said there were 6 planes that were burned. So, it would have been big. This is her in Singapore on the way, obviously, in her Clem L32. I think it's pretty amazing. On her own, just, doing that. So she mostly gave up flying, obviously because of the war, Second World War. I don't know whether they commandeered her plane or she volunteered to give them her plane, but she gave it to the Air Force. And they said, nah, it's not good enough, and they eventually destroyed it, apparently. She gave that. And she was planning another trip around the world, but that was cancelled. She did go back to flying after the war, but her eyesight was going, it's a bit strange. I mean, she was only 48 at that stage, but anyway. Okay, so she was, during the 50s, she was president of the Queensland branch of the Australian Women Pilots Association. Now, our friend Robbie wrote this book. She was doing her PhD or something at the time, so she interviewed her down the coast, and she interviewed the chap who was written like a full biography. So that's Robbie's book about it. She said she was very formal and still had a door pointing to the tradesman's entrance at her house down the coast. I'm just going to mention there was a woman who interviewed her, Laurie, in 1987. This was for something for the Powerhouse Museum called The Cranky Ladies of History Short Story Anthology. Was she a cranky lady? I don't know. And she posted an article about Laurie. And that was when someone sort of got up in arms and said, well, I actually met her in 1962 and we all called her Loris, not Laurie. So there's this big argument about what they called her, but as I said, normally known as Laurie. And Pamela's article says that when her husband died, Mr. Bonney, Harry, he had cancer and he killed himself, apparently, but he was living with another woman, so it's all a bit murky. So Pamela said that Laurie told her that she went to Japan to become a bonsai master, and also that she went down the Amazon in a canoe in her 70s. I found no proof of any of this. It's just someone blithely saying, you can see the bonsai and there's the Amazon. But, yeah, who knows whether any of that is true. But she was recognised, she was given an MBE, she got a doctorate from UQ, there's a trophy in England for women flyers, and here in Australia was Bonnie Avenue, she got the medal, and the Elector of Bonnie in Brisbane, and she was inducted into the Aviation Hall of Fame 2012. So yeah, she died, got to a really ripe old age, 96, down the coast, and there she is in her later years. I'm not sure what this plane is, but she wasn't very, very elegant. So that's pretty much it that I've got to say about two pretty amazing women.
On behalf of the members here, Sherry, we would like to thank you for coming to talk to us today. You did an absolute amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And members who give talks don't get the moat.
No, that's all right. I can look at that later.
We've already got one for 2 or 3.
Have I?
Yes.
Well,
Thank
you
you,
look
Mark,
at
for
this ugly
filming
one every
that.
day.